Hey everyone, welcome to a solo podcast. I wanted to talk about the Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje fight specifically because I feel like there's, I don't know, it feels like people still don't trust Oliveira, and I understand it somewhat, but at the same time, um, I just feel like it's unfair at this point to not trust him. He keeps showing us. He keeps showing us over and over and over again, and I'll explain in further detail. But the current narrative I see a lot of is that Justin poses some unique issues that to Oliveira that he just hasn't been able to face before. He won't be able to handle, right? And it's kind of frustrating for me to see that because we've seen Oliveira kind of run through the gamut. He obviously fought, way down the ranks. He fought through a ton of guys to actually get to the title. And a lot of guys kept doubting him. He was like, oh, yeah, well, but he'll lose to this guy. He'll lose to this guy. And each time he keeps showing us. And I think that the tide really turned for him in particular. He was always branded a quitter. And I don't think it was ever that he was a quitter. It's hard to explain, right? Because we saw him go down and kind of turn away and all that stuff. And now he's willing to continue fighting through hellacious beatings. So what I mean is that the David Tamer fight, I think, is a perfect example where we see him get poked in the eye. He gets dropped. He gets poked in the eye twice, actually. Gets dropped. And just, it's one of those things where, like, he just came back and it didn't matter. And he came out and beat the shit out of him. So, and then we saw him in the Kevin Lee fight. And, after he got taken down in the second round, I believe, like, I thought, like, oh, God, and he was hurting. It seemed like his shoulder was hurt. And I'm like, oh, no, man, like, this is not a good sign. He just came back in the third round, just finished him. He keeps showing, like, why he's holding that strap every single time out. Charles Oliveira has shown us his whole career. We've seen him basically from when he was a baby. He was 21 years old making his UFC debut. It was crazy. I remember his UFC debut. It was wild. He was fucking incredible. And he is incredible. But, like, the journey it took to get there, it's something special. Like, we're watching something special, and I don't think it's acknowledged enough. Khabib is special because of that absolute utter dominance, but to watch someone like Oliveira come back from so many setbacks and to continue to improve and continue to get better and continue to fight and fight and fight and fight and get that strap is fucking awesome. And that's why I really, really love Charles Oliveira as a fighter. It's one of the best stories I've ever connected to in combat sports. It's amazing. And to watch how much he cares about people from his hometown and how much he supported them through really tough times in COVID, like, that's amazing. He's just seems like a really great guy who works his ass off. Like, he's fucking blind, basically. That's crazy. Like, it's absolutely absurd. So, man, that's how much I love Oliveira. Now, I like Justin Gaethje a lot also. I think there's a lot to like about him as a fighter. Like, it makes sense to me, but there's not the same connection for me. Like, I haven't been watching Justin Gaethje I have not been watching Justin Gaethje for 12 years now. I haven't really cared about him as anything other than, wow, this dude seems like he's nice and also is a really fucking fun fighter. And then I saw him, like, he got with Whitman and he started becoming more technical, for lack of better terms, and more of a controlled brawler, and started fighting off the back foot. And it was just always fun. Like, there was never a dull fight in Justin Gaethje's career. But there's not that emotional connection that I have personally to him as a fan. So for me, I'm watching these two, and people want to see the weaknesses in Oliveira. Like, we've seen all the weaknesses. We know what he's bad at. We know what he's good at. We know where he struggles. We know where he succeeds. And we have Justin Gaethje, and they had the same kind of feel for him, right? We already know what he's going to bring to the table. And people are kind of like mashing this up, and it feels like people are mixing together the two distinct versions of Justin Gaethje that we've seen in the UFC. The one will come forward at all costs and try to just keep fucking hitting you, or the one who's going to fight off the back foot, who will take a back step, who will take moments to try and be a little bit more, not conservative, like he's still throwing bombs, but he's like being more selective and careful with how and when and why. And mixing those two together is a real problem, right? Like one that can both fight off the back foot and is going to fight on the front foot, is going to be able to seamlessly transition between those two. Like that's horrible. That's a terrifying thought, but that's not reality with Justin Gaethje right now. He fights off the back foot for the most part. The Chandler fight obviously had portions of them both coming forward, but like there was no excuse for Chandler to be able to push forward for any reason at that point. Like Gaethje should have fucking walked him down nonstop. Doesn't like I don't know, like, and I'm not even talking about just like, oh, he gets hurt and then he started to, no, like Justin Gaethje used to do that anyway. Like he would get hurt, he would be coming at you, he would be trying to throw, he would never, like it's the two different Gaethjes. And we've really only seen one of them recently for an extended period of time. If he doesn't come forward against Khabib, why would he go forward against Oliveira? Oliveira is just as dangerous on the ground. This is probably just reading into things too much, but he did say, Khabib had to go through hell to get me down, and so will you. He had to go through hell. You didn't put him through hell. You didn't come at him and force him to go through hell. You let him in. You took the back step. That was how you decided to handle the biggest grappling threat. I don't know why they wouldn't try that again. Because if they're going to associate that's all we have to go on, right? That's what we have to go on. Where if he's fighting people who he thinks can take them down, what kind of game plan is he going to use currently? And it seems to be one that fights off the back foot. Oliveira doesn't want to fight off the back foot. Oliveira wants to fight on the front foot. And he makes damn well sure he's going to do that in every fucking fight. He's going to fight his ass off to make sure you're backing up. Justin's already conceding that to him. He's allowing Oliveira to fight in the direction he wants to go. That's a big plus for Oliveira. That means that Gaethje's going to have his back to the fence a little bit more easily. It's going to give Oliveira a lot more, like Gaethje's not really going to be able to hop back out of range if Oliveira is throwing. So he's going to have to go side to side, which will allow him to utilize those round kicks to try and force him back in front of him. He's going to be able to more easily grab the clinch because he's going to be able to push him into the cage and work from there. There's so much that can be done off the front foot that fits what Oliveira wants to do that is much harder in open space or off the back foot. So for me, this really isn't a matchup that look, obviously it's fucking Gaethje. You can cold clock it. Like obviously he could systematically beat him down if Oliveira fights the wrong fight. Maybe Oliveira fights off the back foot for whatever reason. I don't know. He shoots a sloppy double and just immediately because he's too worried to strike and gets fucking pounded out from top or just easily stuffed and then just fucking blasted as he comes up. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, and Justin Gaethje winning this fight is a strong one. It's not a fucking blowout, but for me, I'm reasonably confident at this point that like Oliveira's tool set does fit what he needs to do against Gaethje to win. And Gaethje's responses that I would assume he's going to have plays well into that. Now, if he pushes Oliveira back and he's forcing Oliveira off the back foot to fight off the back foot, that's really bad. And that's, really good if you're Justin Gaethje. That's really bad for Oliveira. So I do see how Justin Gaethje wins. And I see that how his win conditions off the back foot and the front foot. Off the back foot, I think he's going to have to like knock him out clean. Because again, off the back foot, it's hard to throw leg kicks also, by the way, and that's one of Justin's best tools. And if he's throwing a leg kick in open space and Oliveira tries to catch it and take him down, he's going to have that space to sprawl. He's going to have that space to try and get his hips back and work his way back to the cage. Maybe it's a work from the clinch there. But if he's near the cage, he's fucking stuck. That's it. He's not going to be able to do that. He's going to be on the cage fighting regardless of whether he likes it or not. And all of these things favor Oliveira to me. Fighting off the back foot doesn't seem to be the right play for me. And yeah, if he gets taken down and held down, if he can't scramble out of it immediately, I really think that's not it's not going to go well. I know he's training jiu-jitsu for this camp, but apparently, like, he spent a long time not doing that and just didn't like doing it, so he didn't. Not great. So I just don't see him being able to handle himself in extended grappling exchanges with Oliveira, because fucking it's Oliveira. He's so fucking good. So yeah, that's my take on this fight. I really, from the emotional side, I think it's way more. I need Oliveira to win a lot more than I need Gaethje to win, and I think it's better to have Oliveira win. I think it's a much more interesting outcome. There is no argument for Justin Gaethje being the greatest lightweight of all time, but as Oliveira keeps stacking these names, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Kevin Lee was a really good win, like, at the time. So even Tamer is a really solid win. Like, there's a lot of really good solid wins. Like Lance a couple times. I think he beat Guido, right? So yeah, he's building that resume. If he could get another couple title defenses, he has an argument for Khabib if you don't necessarily detract too much from losses. And I know a lot of people do count about losses, and 29-0 is much better than 8 losses or whatever it was on his record. Especially because, there's still a lot of reason to pick Max Holloway to beat Oliveira in a rematch, even though Oliveira is much better. It's just style. The styles do seem to favor. It does seem to favor Holloway, who can be a dedicated pressure fighter and will come forward with volume and force Oliveira to have to respond to that. I would love to see that fight, by the way. Volkanovski, also seems like a really, really hard counter in many ways to Oliveira. So yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability there in that argument, but it's still an argument to be made. If he can just choke out Gaethje in fucking 4 minutes, that's pretty fucking wild. And then he choked out Dustin Poirier in the 3rd round too. There's a lot there, and who knows? Michael Chandler also great win. Clearly an elite fighter, even if he is on the decline. So yeah, if he gets this win and he can get another 1 or 2 title defenses, I think that makes the conversation a lot more interesting. So I'm rooting for Charles Oliveira to win. I know that's a weird thing to do on a fucking podcast. I'm rooting for Oliveira to win, and I kind of am confident that he'll get that win. I think that he will be able to get Gaethje down and take his back, and because Gaethje's going to try and scramble, and I think he's going to give his back in that scramble, because he's going to have to. He really has to move. If Oliveira gets him down in a traditional way where he can't Grimby roll out of it or something like that, I think that's going to be. If he can Grimby roll, he could probably get up, or hit the switch. If I think it's called the switch, or sit out. Sprawl on Oliveira. He definitely defend the takedown, but if Oliveira gets him down, I think that Justin Gaethje is going to give his back to get up. He's going to have to, and Oliveira is he's arguably he's the best back taker in the sport. He's up. Maybe Aljo, but it's up there between those two. I love them so much, those two. Okay, anyway, they're so good at back taking. God, they're so fucking good at back taking. Anyway. So yeah, I think that it's going to be Oliveira by submission round. I think he'll get him down the first. So I'm going to go first round sub. So that's my prediction. Hopefully this was enjoyable. I'm going to go and smoke a little bit more, and I'm going to eat some more. Have a good night.